Elizabeth was born on April 21, 1926, during the reign of her paternal grandfather, King George V. Her father, Prince Albert, later King George VI, was the king's second son. Elizabeth's only sister, Princess Margaret, was born on March 21, 1930. Her nanny Marion Crawford published a biography of Elizabeth and Margaret's childhood years entitled The Little Princesses in 1950, much to the dismay of the royal family. This book describes Elizabeth's love for horses and dogs, their orderliness, and their attitude of responsibility. Although her birth attracted public attention, she was not expected to become queen, as Edward was young and likely to marry and have children of his own, which would precede Elizabeth in the line of succession. His grandfather died on January 20, 1936, and her uncle Edward VIII succeeded. Later that year, Edward abdicated, following his marriage to divorced socialite Wallis Simpson, sparking a constitutional crisis.
I have found it impossible to discharge my duties as king without the help and support of the woman I love.
As a result, Elizabeth's father became king, taking the name George VI. Since Elizabeth had no brothers, she became heir presumptive. If her parents had subsequently borne a son, he would have been heir apparent and above her in the line of succession, which was determined by the male preference primogeniture in effect at the time.
In this grave hour, perhaps the most fateful in our history, I send to every household of my people, both at home and overseas, this message: we are at war. With God's help, we shall prevail.
In September 1939, Britain entered the Second World War. During the war in February 1945, she was appointed for Auxiliary Territorial Services. She was trained and worked as a driver and mechanic. In 1940, 14-year-old Elizabeth made her first radio broadcast during BBC Children's Hour, speaking to other children who had been evacuated from the cities.
We are trying to do all we can to help our gallant sailors, soldiers and airmen. And we are trying too to bear our own share of the danger and sadness of war. We know, every one of us, that in the end all will be well.
Princess Elizabeth went on her first overseas tour in 1947, accompanying her parents through southern Africa. During the tour, in a broadcast to the British Commonwealth on her 21st birthday, she made the following pledge.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
Elizabeth met her future husband, Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, in 1934 and again in 1937. After meeting her for the third time at the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth in July 1939, Elizabeth, despite being only 13 years old, said that she fell in love to Philip, who was 18 years old, and they started exchanging letters. She was 21 years old when their engagement was officially announced on the 9th of July 1947. Before the marriage, Philip renounced his Greek and Danish titles, officially converted from Greek Orthodoxy to Anglicanism, and adopted the style Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, taking the surname of his mother's British family. Elizabeth and Philip married on November 20, 1947 at Westminster Abbey. Elizabeth gave birth to her first child, Prince Charles, on November 14, 1948. Her second child, Princess Anne, was born on August 15, 1950. George VI's health declined during 1951, and Elizabeth frequently stood in for him at public events. In early 1952, Elizabeth and Philip set out for a tour of Australia and New Zealand by way of the British colony of Kenya. February 6, 1952, they had just returned to their home in Kenya, Sagana Lodge, when news of the deaths of her father's George VI. She was proclaimed queen throughout her realms and the royal party hastily returned to the United Kingdom. Upon arrival at the airport was greeted by Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Churchill, 77 years, is the first Prime Minister in the reign of Queen Elizabeth. Despite the death of Queen Mary on 24 March 1953, the coronation went ahead as planned on 2 June 1953, as Mary had requested before she died. Coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey. On Elizabeth's instructions, her coronation gown was embroidered with the floral emblems of the Commonwealth countries. The British Empire continued its transformation into the Commonwealth of Nations. By the time of her accession in 1952, her role as head of several independent states had already been established. In 1953, Elizabeth and her husband embarked on a 7-month world tour, visiting 13 countries. She became the first reigning monarch of Australia and New Zealand to visit those nations. Elizabeth gave birth to her third child, Prince Andrew, on 19 February 1960. Her fourth child, Prince Edward, was born on 10 March 1964.
Hello everyone. Please feel free to share this link video if you like and give your valuable comment for our improvement. Thank you.